Well, good evening, everybody. It's PSGL. We are back once again a Wednesday night. F2 PC action just around the corner. A point is all that separates our two championship leaders, Ike Bainer, and as well as Will Lewis, the actual leader of this championship. My name is George Morgan. We're heading to Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. Joining me in the commentary box, the one, the only, Chris Buxton. Chris, how are you, sir?
Grinning from ear to ear to be alongside the George, the Welsh wonder himself. I am honoured to be at your side once again and talking about some of the best in the business. I mean, what better way to spend an evening?
No, absolutely right indeed. Zandvoort, one of the most trying and testing circuits on the calendar. It certainly is going to make overtaking very, very complicated. We had a little conversation about it off air. I mean, obviously, we've witnessed quite a few amateur dramatics out on track, certainly after what happened last week. If you remember, Turn 1 and Turn 2 on lap 1 of all times was a little bit carnivorous, I think, to say the least. But nevertheless, we're back racing again. It's going to be a very different task for these drivers looking back at Bahrain to all of a sudden step into Zandvoort, Chris.
Yeah, this is a really, really difficult circuit. You make no mistake. Turn 1 or Tarzanbocht. Again, I apologise in advance for the pronunciation of these corner names.
It's a good attempt. It sounds great.
Right. That's as close as I'm ever going to get. That's your favourite overtaking spot. It's the only straight this circuit has, and you're coming off of the Ari Leyendyk turn, or Aaron Leyendyk Bocht. Again, I'll get it as close as I can. Generally at full crank, into a very heavy braking zone. The rest of the circuit is really narrow, very twisty, and people are going to have to get creative. But when you give sim racers the option to be creative, sometimes it gets a little bit messy. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if the attrition rate's a little higher than normal here in the beautiful Dutch countryside.
Yeah, definitely possible. Certainly given some of the bank corners as well, oversteering is a prevalent issue. You've got to watch the curbs as well when you head up through the S section in Sector 1 before you then venture through turns 5, also turn 4 as well. It can be very, very tricky, and it can very easily throw your car off. Then you've got that deep descent heading down through turn 7 into turn 8 before you then reach the in-swing in turn 10, which can also catch people off guard. The S section as well, very, very tight, turns 11 and 12. You want to be careful on the brakes there, Chris. It's very easy to lock up. We've seen it numerous times in the past. All it takes is one poke on the brakes and you're in the back of somebody.
That's the thing, isn't it? The barriers aren't that far away, and with a circuit like this, neither is anybody else. Chance of a safety car? Well, we'll see. Chance of on-track carnage? I'd say that's a pretty good certainty in some way, shape, or form. We're just waiting for our drivers to ready up, and then we'll get a fantastic qualifying session underway. 36 laps is what awaits us around this very testing Zandvoort circuit.
Absolutely right. Won't be long, folks. The lobby will be underway. If you want to get your comments in the live chat, please do. I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Buxton yet again. We've enjoyed certainly already one race at Bahrain, which is absolutely phenomenal. And as I said before, a single point is all that separates the championship. Ike Bainer, let's talk about that dominant display around Bahrain, Chris. It was a measured performance, I think, more than anything. I mean, he's taken pole position in both Spain and Bahrain. He led pretty much, well, he was chasing Chanakinci for the majority of it, but him and Chanakinci, sort of staying together. Akinci looked like he lost DRS on Ike Bainer at the very start, but managed to claw it right back in, then make the overtake. But Ike Bainer, using that mentality, that switched-on mentality that he has, and he was able to strike just at the very moment where he needed it most, and that gave him the race win. He seems cool and calculated, this young man.
Yeah, absolutely. So the word you used there was measured. Absolutely true. There didn't seem to be any sign of panic. No, he wasn't making any unrealistic moves. He looked like he had everything calculated and deployed at the moment he'd already predestined. Reacting to situations going on, of course they do, but he had a plan in mind. He didn't panic when things didn't quite stick to the script that he got in his mind. He got it absolutely spot on at the crucial moment, which secured him the victory. But, all credit to Chanakinci. He gave it everything. He gave it everything in the McLaren. Still came home with second, and that sees him third in the championship. Obviously, we've got 11 rounds in this championship, plenty of time to make up any points deficit. But, Mr. Morgan, we are counting down to head to qualifying.
Very nearly there, folks. 10 seconds away, and you can hear the clock ticking in behind me. And looking forward to seeing now who can take the upper hand in qualifying. That is the big, big test. Who is going to get it? We also got the great return of Joseph Loke, who was certainly a very, very good competitor in the race at Spain in our very first round of the championship. Of course, a real racing driver has just recently come back from Silverstone testing. Of course, he was doing that last week when we were racing at Bahrain, obviously. But now he's making his return here at Zandvoort. You've got to put him in the picture, Chris.
Third, as you say, third in Spain. Real racing or in abundance, absolutely behind him. You absolutely cannot write him out. He's really making a name for himself. Aside from his real racing antics, his actual sim racing experience and motivations is growing each time we see him. And just one race done for him and sees him well within the top 10 here in PSGL. It just shows how important PSGL is, that it attracts names such as Joseph Loke.
It is very important, folks. And if you agree that it's important, then you should hit that subscribe button. Not to mention, head over to Twitter at PremierSimGL. Make sure you leave a follow and stay up to date with everything that's PSGL all across the socials. You can also find them on Instagram as well. Recently setting up that account, PremierSimGL as well. Check them out on Instagram, please do. But anyway, we've got to go to qualifying. The timer is ticking away. The cars are leaving the garage. Let's head across to Zandvoort, where the cars now making their way out onto the track. No messing around, Chris. Short qualifying format, 18-minute session. We're nearly already into the 17th minute.
And look at the amount of people coming out in droves. Now, sometimes you have the qualifying exodus a little bit more spaced out than that. More than half the field all came out at once right at the beginning of the session. That goes to show what people are thinking about this qualifying. It is really, really important. Overtaking is difficult. Keeping the car on the track is difficult. So a strong qualifying position is made all that more important as a result.
It is. You can see all the cars now jostling for position. They won't want to stay in too close a proximity to each other. Certainly not. So you can see Christoph Zeller, who we're currently watching on our screen, marking his return as well to this championship. Did certainly not manage to strike up the top end of things last time out. Of course, coming off the back of Spain is where he managed to land a 14th place in the race after qualifying 16th. And you'd expect a little bit more from Christoph Zeller, certainly the Alpine. No stranger to getting big results, but he's got many great contenders here in this group, this cluster of great drivers looking to get to the next step in terms of F1 esports. And I immediately take a look at some of the names. Chana Kinchi, who was mightily impressive last time. Duncan Hoffland, you get the feeling he didn't have the chance to really show what he could do, Chris, last time.
That's another thing as well, is that exactly as you say, you've got major names that we've enjoyed here in PSGL and seen in other racing leagues are blindingly quick. Chana Kinchi, Jeffrey Ritchie on when he's on form, he got second over in Spain as a result. Jack West, Ishmael Farsi, Primoz Mislavcic as a reserve this time around. He's not with us this time. Mirko Suriano is a recent addition to this particular tier as well. Isran Puki, Ben Sabakonyi, so many names that we've seen do very, very well. That makes the field spread from top to bottom so narrow, which makes a tiny mistake very, very painful. So, a name, Duncan Hoffland, as you were mentioning, someone who we'd normally expect to be right up the very top, through either a tiny mistake or maybe someone else's mistake, could find himself, and as he has done, out of the points. Not because he's slow, it's because it's that hard to make any inroads in the rest of this field. Absolutely
right. He immediately goes to the top already in the early stages, though Ismail Fassi, who was our driver of the day, really, Chris. We spoke about Ismail Fassi last time. Ismail, obviously, with the pace, managing to bring his car up into the fight. Haas was certainly very well equipped at Bahrain last time. Ike Boehner, who was mightily impressive during the race and qualifying. Fassi also joined him at the top end, managing to get himself within proximity for a podium. Third place is where he finished at Bahrain, and now marks his return to Zandvoort, to the top of the tree as well. His teammate, course, who would go on to take not only his second pole position last time out, but a race win as well to counteract the heartbreak from Spain. Across the line, Icabena, only 8th fastest here in the initial start, well, the initial part of qualifying.
Yeah, he smelled fast. His recovery drive was meteoric last time out. Currently sits at the top of the tree with a 109.922 on the board, just half a tenth ahead of the aforementioned Duncan Hofland. Is now seeing a few people coming into the pits. Just 4 cars yet to set a time. That's István Pukki in the Ferrari, Max Wiesel in the Aston, Drake Dempsey, who I don't think he's actually left the pit lane yet, and Carter Lundy in the second McLaren. So we'll see what they are able to do in the course of the lap, because it's a very, very short lap, as you can see from the times we've already got on the board. And these are banker laps, and they're only half a second apart, first to 15th. Again, further highlighting just how close this field is. So trying to make any inroads is made that much more difficult on a circuit that's already really difficult to overtake on in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. István Pukki goes 10th fastest in the Ferrari as well. So a top 10 at the very start of this qualifying session. We've still got 13 minutes to go. Obviously, we'll see the times flurry downwards, as you alluded to already, Chris. But like you so rightly say as well, the gap's so marginal. Incredible to see. Certainly around a track such as Zandvoort, so many tricky areas on this circuit. It's very unlikely half the time, or certainly a huge test to at least get your time as close to your top competitors. But Ismail Fassi up at the top of 109.922. And just around half a tenth away. In fact, half a tenth near enough or close enough from Duncan Hofland, who still sits in second place. Jack West, good to see him back as well. He's about to make his way out of the pit lane onto the circuit. Red Bull didn't really enjoy their best result last time, despite getting both their cars up in the top 5. It still would probably go down as a negatory there for the likes of our championship leader, Will Lewis. He would have wanted a better result than that, Chris. No podium on that occasion, though he still holds the top of the championship.
That is very true, but he's going to have to fight hard to hang on to it. I'm keeping an eye on Max Wiesel, who is trying his best to get his first time on the board, his second run of the session. He's just coming into the S's, or the Hans Ersbocht, at this point in time, keeping the car nice and steady as he heads up through Kumo, now through Ari Leyendijk to finish the lap. It was purple sector 1 for the Aston Martin. What can he get on the board? 109.922 his target, and he sits in third, right behind his teammate, 1,000 indeed behind the teammate. That is a strong opening gambit from Max Wiesel.
A very, very strong start by the Aston Martin pairing of Duncan Hofland and Max Wiesel. Jack West in 4th. Here comes Jordan Poland. 16th fastest is where he sits at 110.333 is all he can net, or 353 should I say. 16th is where he stays. Will Lewis just in front of him as well, also trying to find some improvements in this final sector as he now makes his way up towards the line as well. This lap certainly won't count for much at this point. 15th is where he will stay. And Harvey Cowan, who comes in this week, of course replacing that of Simon Perroni as well in the Alpine. And Harvey Cowan, no slouch, tipped to be one of the fastest rising up-and-comers as well, to add his name to the list of drivers we're seeing coming through the flurry now at PSGL. Is now looking to state his claim in F2.
Very true. Drake Dempsey gets the time on the ball, 110.232, slots him into 14th position. So the only car we're waiting for a time from is Carter Lundy in the McLaren. The Canadian then working his way through just turn 8. He's now hitting, and he's got a fair amount of traffic ahead of him, but everyone tends to be fairly well behaved when it comes to qualifying and letting people through. So we'll see if the traffic even actually causes him to alter his line, because everyone is getting out there and getting on with it. Because, as I say, the margin is so danarrow, and because the lap's so short, it makes those gaps even tighter. Christoph Zeller, second, 109.961, and Valentin Thiebader's Carter Lundy nearly drops it on the Ari Leyendijk turn. He invalidates his lap and brings his car straight into the pits, nearly sending his car backwards into the wall. But still, more times coming in And still, it's the Haas of Ismail Farsi at the top of the tree.
Yeah, and Ika Boehner as well is looking to come around the final corner as well, make his way up towards the line to see whether he can pull himself into the top 10. Could it be a third pole position for Ika Boehner? Up towards the line, still no such luck just yet, but his teammate Ismail Farsi still holds on to the top. Janik Kinchi in second, Christoph Zeller, as you say, in third, Valentin Thivard now fourth. Great visit here from Janik Kinchi going into second fastest for the McLaren team. Again, after a positive display at Bahrain, returning here, getting very close to the back of that Alfa Romeo as well. I mean, what's your take on that, Chris?
Wow. Again, the Turkish driver is no slouch. We know this. We've seen him do so well many, many times before. Second last time out in Bahrain, and he's looking to continue that form. No, he was in the points just about in Spain, so he's looking to continue his newfound momentum for this season. So Janik Kinchi, 0.004 of a second behind Ismail Farsi. Bearing in mind, it takes, to put that in perspective, it takes the average person a 1/10 of a second to blink. And in the 1/10 of a second from the top time, that takes you from first to 8th. 8 cars in the time it takes you to blink. That's how close this field is.
That's how much is on the line. The threshold is so thin. Ben Charbot-Cogny, 10th fastest now for the Mercedes. Certainly sends his way to the pit lane. We've got a few cars now out and out laps, none the less than the 2 Aston Martins that really did show very early pace and promise at the start of this session. Duncan Hoffland and Max Wissel are still 5th and 6th, both of them on out laps as well. And Max Wissel is currently now starting his flying lap 2, just making his way around the final corner. Jack West is also out and about, coming around that final bend. So we've got a good train of cars now that are about to light the timing screens upwards. Well, let's follow on with Max Wissel as he now makes his way around turn 1. This very, very tricky hairpin bend. Rubs a little bit of the curb, comes up through the S section at turn 2, in towards turn 3. This very, very high steep banking, of course, looks steeper when you're actually there, though, folks, as now we're seeing Max Wissel make his way through the S's of turns 4, 5 and 6. In gear 7, does not go up to 8th. You'll then lean the car down through this next dip in the elevation, through this next right, very shortly around turn 7 and very shortly in towards turn 8. Brakes in just before the 50, gear changes downwards straight up to 5th as he now makes his way through this next left-hander at turn 10. You've got to be very careful with the throttle, be careful over the curbs as well. They will strike you down as he heads down towards turn 11 and 12 and the start of sector 3. He takes the curbs as well, no disturbance from the car at all as he now rumbles over the curbs yet again. He's got a double right to take. Turn 13 into turn 14. Again takes the curbs. No tricky business with the car at all. The tyres on his side as he now makes his way down through towards the start-finish line. Max Wissel, pole position at least for now. A 109.920. Jack West immediately steals it for Red Bull. A grandiose return for Jack West.
There's a statement of intent there. Nicely done, Jack West. Continuing his improving run of form. I'm keeping an eye on Carter Lundy. That's a 109.932. Only 400th behind the now pole time. Just, what's that, 100th? Just over behind his, behind Janik Kinchi, his own teammate. My goodness me. Oh, it's pole again for Farsi. He's seen it change hands. And he's saying, no, denied, sir. A 109.840. Because the margins are so narrow, the lap's so short, finding those extra tenths, hundredths, thousands in some cases is so difficult. 0.4 of a second from top to bottom.
And just to also let you guys know, Ika Boehner 15th in the classification right now. We've got just over 5 minutes to go. His teammate Ismail Farsi currently sits in P1. Boehner trying to chase his 3rd pole position this season. Remember, this is round 3. He's the sole pole sitter so far this season. He took it at Spain. He took it also at Bahrain. He is currently off the pace, only by a slender margin off his previous lap in Sector 1. But still, it won't be enough to take that top spot. A very sensitive point in qualifying. Ika Boehner could be, for the first time, not on pole position this season.
We will see. Well, in a fairly short period of time, that will be answered for us. As Ika Boehner then, he's on my screen, that's coming up as purple sector 2, so he's finding time out there, 110.190. is his time as more laps. Chanakinchi is up into second, 109.887 for the Turkish driver. What can Ika Baena, what can the Spaniard do? Straight down to the line, it's ninth with a 109.960. Still time to get round and get back to the pits and prepare for what I call the Banzai face, the last 3 minutes of the session. But the action just isn't relenting, which is exactly what we love to see.
It is absolutely right indeed. Not enough indeed for even a top 5 for Ika Baena. And we've now got, well, within 4 minutes remaining in this session, his teammate Ismail Fassi currently holding on to the lead spot. P1, 109.840 to beat. And over 400s faster than Chanakinchi, but do not take anything away from the Turk. Chanakinchi in second yet again, proving that his pace is superb. Jack West also in the mix as well. If you look at the top 11, all of them within that 109 sector. Now, that's all within 0.2 of a second, 1.5 tenths near enough. So incredible really from all those drivers. Just goes to show how slender those margins really are. Mirko Suriano, currently sat 7th fastest, comes into the pit lane, no doubt to prepare for one last lap of magic. It's now or never, Chris Buxton. 3 minutes to go.
Banzai phase has initiated already. People getting back out there. Hoffland is out there. Farsi is out there. Thivard is out there. Carter Lundy. Who else is out there? Jeffrey Ritchie. I mentioned him all session. 110.199 sees him 18th. Will Lewis is back out there. Will had the pole at one stage. So it is constant, unrelenting action. But the car that is at the front of this train that's going to be setting the next and final time lap is Duncan Hoffland, who sits in 4th, 109.904, 2,000s ahead of Valentin Thivard as we head to the final laps of this session.
Yeah. Ismail Fassi knows that nothing's for certain as well. He's going out for one final lap to see whether he can hold on to P1. I mean, he could still make it a Haas third pole this season. Obviously, Ika Baena has taken the first 2. Could it be Ismail Fassi to bring it back for Haas once again? We'll have to wait and see. Duncan Hoffland now round in the final bank corner as we now wait for him to propel his way down through towards turn 1. Aston Martin currently sit in 4th and 6th. Max Wiesel, his teammate, holding on to that 6th place, just in behind Valentin Thivard. We're within the final 2 minutes now. This could be complicated. And AlphaTauri just leaving the pit lane as well. Hopefully that didn't catch Duncan Hoffland too much off guard as he makes his way up through towards the banked left-hander. Of course, at turn 3, he'll then venture through turns 4, 5, and indeed 6 as well. Jack West also out on track. And you'd fancy as well, I mean, Will Lewis, he won't want to stay in P14 here, Chris. Currently at a very sensitive point in qualifying, and he's one of the championship contenders. He's leading this championship. 14th is not the place to be at Zandvoort.
Certainly not. But now is the time to make the magic happen. Everyone is either out on a hot lap or on their out lap then. All 19 of our participating cars are out there and ready to do the business. My goodness me, it is really, really packed out there. So it's even been, this car's trying to pull over and get out of the way, and that is not going to help anybody trying to improve on what is, these are storming laps, don't get me wrong. But there's no space. That's what people they're just getting into their rhythm, and they're just stumbling across traffic. Duncan Hoffland actually bowed out of his lap, and is now actually going again.
Yeah, he is. I did see him slow down, in fact, and big change in the works. Obviously, if you want to see the gaps, folks, this is how they sit right now. The gap between 1st and 19th is just under 0.4 of a second. That is how close we really are as Max Wiesel now comes up towards the line. Is it an improvement for Max Wiesel? Not this time. Still remains 800s in behind Ismail Fassi. Jordan Boland is currently 6th fastest now. Valentin Thivard up there too. Jack West currently sits in P3, has stayed in P3 as well, at least for now. We got more cars making their way around the circuit, not to mention, of course, that being Ika Baena, who's currently sat in 11th fastest, making his way through this next right-hander as well. He's just been dropped to 11th because Mirko Suriano is up in the mix. Duncan Hoffland remains in 4th place. as we're now watching the cars that make their way down towards the next chicane at turns 11 and 12. We're riding on board here with Iker Boehner. Hits the curbs on entry and exit. As you can now see him just feathering that throttle, heading down towards the next right-hander. The final moments of qualifying. We're within 2.5 minutes. Oh, Iker Boehner, he's lost it. He's lost it. He's retired from the session. The tyre, the suspension is totally broken. The wishbones have gone. They failed him. Kartalundi heads into the pit lane. Drama at the end. But I'm afraid to say, if you're Iker Boehner, 11th is all you're going to get at best.
My goodness me. That is never ideal for anybody. Duncan Hoffland slots into second. Mirko Suriano, a 109.838, 2000 to the good. But Fassi had something in reserve yet again. 109.762 is where the Haas now slots itself. Is Jordan Poland on a lap? Not sure if he is. Just going to keep an eye on him. Is he pushing? Don't think he is particularly. So he was the only other car that could have done another time run. So Ismail Fassi, at the death of the session, reasserts his name on the top spot. What a great way to finish the session. First pole for Fassi.
Well, I can tell you, it may not be a third Iker Boehner pole, but it's a third Haas pole, this time coming from Ismail Fassi. The dexterity within this Haas team right now, the strongest pairing. Not only are they showing a strong record in F1 esports with the likes of Thomas Ronhaar and Matthias van Erven, to say the least, but also the likes of Ismail Fassi and that of Iker Boehner as well. But Fassi this time takes the plaudits. The Spaniard on pole for our race around Zandvoort. Mirko Suriano in second. Duncan Hoffland is in third. Shanna Kinchi, a wonderful return again in fourth place. Jack West, consistency, he's in fifth. Valentin Thivard in 6th with Jordan Poland 7th, Max Wiesel 8th. Kartalundi qualifies in the top 10 for P9. Christoph Zeller right on the bubble of 10th place. Iker Boehner, not enough for pole. He's got one in the number, though. It's 11th for him. Harvey Cowan in 12th. Drake Dempsey as well sits in 13th. Ben Jabo-Konyi in 14th. Daniel Kuija in 15th with Jeffrey Miguel Reno Ricci in 16th. Will Lewis, very disappointing, 17th. Istvan Pukki and Matthew Alder are the remainder. Well, dramatic qualifying, Chris. Dramatic ending. We'll talk about it just after this very quick commercial break. Well, welcome back, folks, to PSGL, of course, powered by GT Omega. We just witnessed certainly a crazy qualifying session, bizarre in many ways. Did not expect it to go that way. Iker Boehner could have been on for something massive. The curbs took it away from him, though. 11th fastest is all he could get. But it was his teammate who came up with the plaudits. He came up with pole. Haas getting their third pole position in a row this championship. The only team to score pole position this season as well. That's something to be proud of, certainly. And I'd imagine if you're Ismail Fassi, following up a strong performance at Bahrain with a pole position at Zandvoort, can't turn your nose up at that, Chris.
No, you certainly can't. And 10 seconds away from getting this next round, round number 3 of this season underway here at PSGL. Oh, my goodness. Let's go.
That's absolutely right. And I want to hear from you, folks, as we're about to go racing here at Zandvoort. All 5 lights are lit. And it is pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. Ismail Fassi leads them away. Mirko Suriano in second place, battling with Duncan Hoffland through turn 1. Mirko Suriano, who was certainly looking devastating in qualifying until it was taken from him by Ismail Fassi. He now holds on to second. Duncan Hoffland in third with Jack West further down as well. Valentin Thivard has spun as well. Cars now beginning to sort themselves out. It's Fassi on top, Suriano in second, Hoffland in third place.
The start of dreams from the young Spaniard. He absolutely nailed it as he really started to pull away. Mirko Suriano, great effort from him and the Ferrari. Hoffland, you're doing well just to remain in the position you started with. Side by side, Jack West keeping pressure on the Aston Martin, now coming out through, nearly running off the road, but as robust racing, but enough racing room given. Valentin Thievard all the way down. He's lost 11.
Oh, he spun!
Oh no, that's Jack West round. I was saying there's enough racing room given, and I've commentated curse. Jack West, the Brit, now down to last.
Yeah, came together with Chana Kinchi on that occasion, got very close between the pair. There's been more as well. Christoph Zeller is out. 19th place now, and down and out. We have got a situation where we're down to 18 cars now in this race. It's starting to get busy further up as well. More cars making their way down through. We got a triple yellow flag. Sector 1, Sector 2, and Sector 3.
Virtual safety car.
We have got
Virtual
a VSC. Yeah, it's been called a VSC. Here in lap 2 of 36, it all got a little bit messy through that final sector, of course, no doubt caused due to the incident between that of Christoph Zeller and those on track. But dramatics already. Cartalundi dropping down to 17th. Max Wiesel, who was up at the top end after qualifying, 18th place as well.
Christoph Zeller was found on the inside facing backwards at the final turn of the Ari line-out turn. So whatever spun him round, he'd hit the wall hard enough to detonate his suspension. That is the end of his race. A great shame. Not even a lap complete, but plenty of other racing going on. Ben Sabaconi picked up a penalty, and that is Cuija that's losing positions. And that's only one mistake, but with the field so heavily condensed, it's magnified the error as he's now trying to get the inside of Valentin Thievard. They come together, no spin on this occasion, but this is just how hard they're having to fight. Ismail rather demonstrated that with how hard people are having to push to try and improve and qualifying, let alone anything else. That's somebody else in the pits. That's Ben Sabaconi that's come in to the pits now. Oh my goodness me, we've got more impact into turn 1.
Yeah, got very close indeed. A squeeze from Jeffrey Ritchie heading in towards turn 1. Tried to prevent Valentin Thievard from making the move as they head through the S section now, tackling the bank corners as they now round turn 3. Oh, contact again. Thievard very nearly losing the car after rumbling over the curbs. It got very tight between him and Jeffrey Ritchie. No doubt the stewards are going to be looking into that, Chris.
Good God, it is getting scrappy out there. Carter Lundy has decided to park the car. He brought the McLaren in again for a second pit stop in only 3 laps, and he has parked it. That's the second retirement. Ben Sabaconi, curiously, on soft tyres. Now, I'm looking skywards. There's a lot of cloud up there. I wonder if he's anticipating rain. We don't know what the weather is going to be unless a driver or somebody watching a driver stream informs us of it. With soft tyres this early on at Zandvoort, that's either a mistake or he's banking on the weather changing somewhere.
Well, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see. Ben Chabo-Conye opting for the soft tyre compound. Duncan Hofflin, all the fastest laps now starting to come in. Obviously, we're on lap 3 of 36. That's the detail on the tyres for you folks. It's Jeffrey Ritchie, who is currently being watched on by Daniel Koya. They're in 10th place. He's currently looking for every which way move possible to try and get past that Williams. The gap now starting to string out between Jeffrey Ritchie and Will Lewis, who has had an almighty rise at the start of this race. Obviously, one of those factors being the cars that came to a bitter end earlier on in the race. Will Lewis now up into 8th after the mass difficulty that he had in qualifying, but returning very, very strongly indeed, only half a second away from Drake Dempsey. He's very much in the top-end fight.
Very, very much so, but with the massive unpredictability we've had in this race already, don't count your tickets. A track limit penalty already for Max Wiesel and speeding in the pit lane. That's probably going to be another retirement. Usually speeding in the pit lane penalty is the preceded to the retirement. Actually the Aston's still going. So Max Wiesel trying to collect every penalty he possibly can. He's been through the pits several times. Actually, here comes the field. Ready to put a lap on him, so that's
dearie me.
Oh, go on.
Valentin Thievard spinning around the final 2 corners. He headed around because we saw Ike Boehner do that in qualifying as well, as a move now takes place out on track, late on the brakes from Jeffrey Ritchie. He looked like he was down and out heading in towards turn 1, but late on the brakes, he left it to the very last minute, and Daniel Koya there, who's currently sat in 10th, who was briefly in 9th place, very nearly came to a very, very bitter end as we're now seeing the cars make their way through this mid part of the sector now, heading in towards sector 2 out of turns 4, 5 and 6, dipping down into the next right-hander now. Jack West, who's now in 11th place. Remember, he was up in the top 5 from the very start, came to a bitter end on lap 1 and has now come back very strongly indeed. It's not over for Red Bull. They currently sit 8th, now rubbing together the two sister cars, the sister teams. That would be Daniel Koija now is down into 11th. Jack West up into 10th. A great move heading out into leading down in towards turn 10.
Superb move from Jack. That was confidence. That was belief in the person you were passing. That could have gone horribly wrong, but nicely executed there for Jack to get himself into 10th place at turn 10. Nicely done. They are chasing Jeffrey Ritchie at the moment that's about a 9th position, that 4-car train. But Ismail Farsi's got a fair amount of pressure on his shoulders. Marcus Siriano is ready to do battle with him, but certainly the top 4 cars have got nearly a full battery load of ERS. They're just minding their own business at the moment. Harvey Cowan, who is up 7 places from where he started. It's a great effort for him in the Alpine. His battery is dead. He has got next to nothing left. So something I always talk about is how crucial trying to maintain your ERS energy is. Ika Baena, same story. He's got around 11% in his battery. Drake Dempsey, same again. Will Lewis actually has the advantage in that particular 4-car train. So whether that comes to any good, we will see. There's several major braking zones here. So, yeah, there's opportunities to recharge the battery. But conversely, because there's a lot of braking zones, you're accelerating that much more. So then the temptation to use that bit of ERS to get you back up to speed is ready. Oh, no, Thibaut spun again. That's on the exit of turn 10. Whether he came together with Jordan Poland, I'm not sure. I didn't see the spin happen. I just saw the yellow flags. But that is more frustration for the Frenchman.
Well, I'm just seeing now on our screens Jack West getting past Jeffrey Ritchie. Very cool, calm fashion. Now up into 9th. Jeffrey Ritchie down into 10th. You've got Daniel Koya there in 11th with Matthew Alder there in 12th as well. That's your pack there, mid-part through this classification. 3.1 seconds separate Jack West and his teammate at Red Bull, Will Lewis, as well. But important to see as well, and Valentin Thibaut has indeed retired. That is 3 DNFs now in this classification. Carter Lundy as well, a retiree from earlier on. Max Wiesel, 8 seconds of penalties, and is still not yet past Valentin Thibaut on track to register on our timing tower. So effectively he's down and out at this point after what looked to be a very positive qualifying session for both Aston Martins. They've still got one car though up in the podium places. Duncan Hoffland having a far better time of it, currently sat in 3rd place, battling for a podium. I mean, he was up at the top end of things at the very start of Bahrain, of course, fighting in that top 5, but it all came to an end, as I said at the start of the broadcast. If you remember the incident on lap 1, heading through turns 1 and 2 and 3, of course, we saw a lot of those drivers getting chewed up at that point as well. But it's interesting to see as they now dance through the stricken car of Valentin Thibaut. He has DNF'd out on track, yellow flag in sector 1, folks. The ERS usage almost mimicking, like for like, what we saw at Bahrain, Chris.
That's the thing, isn't it? Is that, and it's such a big divide. It's not like you've got a roughly level amount of usage within, say, 10%. You've got people at the front with all the battery at their disposal, and you've got people right behind them with dead batteries. So, very varying strategies going on in ERS usage. Now, yes, there are a number of braking zones, as I was saying, but something I didn't quite highlight is those braking zones are not very big. Turn 1, Tarzan is the biggest braking zone they've got. Otherwise, it's lots of little braking points, so they're using more energy than they're harvesting. So energy management is very difficult. So that's an added pressure for our drivers. But those up front have done a storming job in maintaining their battery power. Now, I would think the top 4 certainly are just going to bide their time. Fasti, Soriano, Hoffman, and Akinci are just going to just make themselves known, make sure that the car they're chasing knows they're there. So maybe an occasional peak here and there, but they're not going to push for positions yet. Not until the first pit stops at least are done. Now, I would say with the exception of Ben Sabaconi doing a strange strategy of going on to softs at this stage, everyone else seems to be going with the hard mediums kind of strategy that always is the favourable one for a 50% race in the dry. So my gut feeling is we're not going to have any intervention from the rain, but that is never a certainty, because the cloud cover is certainly there that could get involved, but we will see as the race goes on.
Yeah, Duncan Hoffland with all the battery in the world at his disposal, 88%. And also in this top 4 fight. How brilliant is this for Duncan Hoffland? He's very well teed up here for a positive result as long as he can keep this going. Ismail Farsi still leads the way with Mirko Suriano just in behind him as well. Duncan Hoffland with no such struggles on the ERS will open up the DRS now as they plough down towards turn 1. Here beginning lap 10 of 36. He's just over half a second in behind that of Mirko Suriano, who has a little look as Will Lewis now moves up into 7th place ahead of Drake Dempsey and is now holding on to that 7th with his fellow Red Bull compatriot Jack West down into 9th, still chasing that 3.2 second gap. Now Will Lewis was threatening that move on the lap previous, so looking very quick indeed. Could this be our championship leader coming back into the fight now, Chris?
Could well be, but those around him don't have much ERS to use to defend. So this is coming back to what I was saying earlier. Because their batteries are very, very low, although in fairness, Iga Baena in 6th does have more battery at his disposal than the rest of this particular group. But yeah, Harvey Cohen, he's still in the single digits, so he's just not been able to harvest any energy or any significant amount of energy because, like I'm saying, the braking zones are so short. So there's not all that many opportunities to try and get that energy back in the car again. So Will Lewis just basically dumped the battery on the run down towards Tarzan, and Drake Dempsey had no means of defending against it. Drake, again, single digits for him, about 50%-ish for Will. That was around 70% a little bit earlier on, and no change in that particular group as they come down to turn 1. Tarzan, once again, that gap between Harvey Cohen and the top 4, about 1.8 seconds. He's doing his best to try and mitigate the loss of that battery power, but there's only so much he can do. He's doing his best. He's doing a pretty decent job, but I would think by the end of the race, as Harvey Cohen's battery actually hits 0 now, he's going to be an absolute sitting duck. But we will see if we have another virtual safety car. There's a great opportunity then just to drag the brakes and try and get some more power back in that battery at a time when no one can overtake. There's still plenty of twists and turns in this tail yet. There
certainly is. Will Lewis, just to say, a cracking drive he has had, obviously, since the VSC restart, managing to get himself back up into the top 10. And is now very nearly in the top 5 as well. He's got his fellow title contender, Iker Baena, dead ahead of him here, who's also managed to recover some of the time lost after a maybe not ideal qualifying session. Will Lewis himself, though, getting very quick, looking very quick in behind his title contender, as I said before, as they now make their way up towards the start-finish line to commence yet another lap, this time lap 12 of 36. Iker Baena in 6th, with Will Lewis closing up in behind as well. Max Wiesel with another 3-second time penalty. That is up to 19 seconds now. 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane, and that's a DNF. Max Wiesel out of the session. That brings our total up to 4 retired cars now. We lost Max Wiesel, Valentin Thiebaud, Carter Lundy, and Christoph Zeller. Will Lewis, though, making his way through the middle sector, trying to get himself closer to Iker Baena, who's currently holding on to 6th place. His teammate, though, Ismail Fassi, still leads, with Mirko Suriano getting very close behind the fellow Ferrari-powered car.
And the next group, these 9th to 11th, Jack West, Jeffrey Ritchie, and Daniel Cuija, all keeping each other company. So let's see what their ERS amounts are. So about 25-ish for Jack, 40-ish for Jeffrey, and 63 for Daniel Cuija. So the AlphaTauri has done a good job of keeping some life in the battery as yet. Very much on his own. Matthew Alder was starting at the back of the field in this race. His fuel light's on, and he's got 20% of the battery, so a lonely and difficult race for him. Istvan Pukki has been through the pits already in the Ferrari. He's got about 78, but with gaps all around him. Jordan Poland keeps him company in 14th. He's got about 64-ish in the tank, with Ben Sabaconi another 20 seconds back. He can have all the ERS in the world. It's not going to help him from that far back. So Duncan Hoffland, again, he stayed very, very close to the tail end of Mirko Suriano, but no challenges for position just yet. But What are we thinking for first pit stop? Probably another 5-ish laps on these hard tyres to switch over to the mediums, assuming no rain, George?
I would say you're probably spot on. I think looking at the cars and looking at the tyres right now, Will Lewis, we had a look at the tyre graphic earlier on. His tyres are in far better condition than what Ike Urbana's are right now. Both of them on hard tyres, incidentally. So Will Lewis not only able to carry the pace, but he's also able to nurture those tyres as well. It may be the case that while he might not necessarily have a setup that is, should we say, useful in terms of a qualifying standpoint, but when you come into a race, he seems far more effective. He looks far more composed in that 7th spot. Has had a little bit of luck go his way, but then again, he is taking it all in abundance. Max Wiesel, as we said before, out of the session, as we're now seeing the cars make their way down towards turn 1, having a little look there. Chanakinchi starting to have, just to remind Duncan Hoffman that he's still in behind him here. Harvey Cowan has also brought the gap back down. Remember, that was 3.6 seconds in behind Chanakinchi. It is now down to a mere 2, and he's broken into that now. 1.8 into the 1.9s.
As the race continues, I keep looking skywards, and the amount of blue seems to be vanishing. It rather depends on which direction you're looking in. The sun is still shining, though, and unless you have an absolute deluge, the light rain is probably not going to make an awful lot of difference. But Zandvoort's tricky enough as it is. It wouldn't take much rain to make this race even more difficult, as Ben Sabaconi has decided to ditch those soft tyres onto what I believe are his starting hard tyres. He's already got 2 laps on them. He should avoid being blue flagged. Yeah, he'll be out way before the pack catches him, but not been a good day for the Mercedes.
No, not ideal at all. Ben Oconi, who would expect to be one of the top contenders in this championship, is now all of a sudden, we're just having a look, because Mirko Suriano following and tracking Ismail Fassi. He was very keen to break the toe there, drove very close to the pit side barrier. Obviously trying to drag Mirko to the ulterior side. An act of defence there from Ismail Fassi. Obviously very wary of the cars that are in behind him, but a clear statement of intent. And Mirko Suriano could probably grin with a little bit of satisfaction knowing that he's getting into the head slightly of Ismail Fassi. We'll have to wait and see whether he will pull the trigger before the pit stop phase, because we are starting to reach that section of this race, lap 15 of 36. We're not at the halfway point yet, a mere 3 laps, and we will be there, folks. It won't be long before they come into the pit lane.
No, indeed, yeah. I was a bit surprised to see Ishmael feeling the need to defend. But, yeah, exactly as you say, the mind game is very, very important in sim racing. You've got the actual on-track talent, yes, but you have got that mental aspect. Exactly as you say, George, getting into the psyche, getting into, working your way into literally trying to force that mistake onto your opponent. But, we'll see how this transpires as the top 4, well, top 8 really, now come down the start-finish line, start-finish straight, so no particular change there. That gap between Chanakinchi and Harvey Cohen is fluctuating between 1.6 and 1.8, which is where it's been for most of the race. So, again, I'm quite impressed, actually, that Harvey's managed to maintain that pace without having ERS to be able to utilize, or DRS indeed. So again, further highlights of that top group are just biding their time. They've got more pace to use if they felt like it, but with overtaking being so difficult, it's too much of a risk at this stage. If we were in the final 5 laps, the gloves would be off and it would be no holds barred within reason, of course. But yeah, at this point, there's no need to make those big desperate moves, because we've still got over half the race to do. Post pit stop, maybe we'll start to see a few more challenges made to those top spots. Yeah,
and with the race settling down, Harvey Cowan again breaking into that delta at 1.3 now. In behind that of Chanakinchi. He is coming into it. You can see the Alpine just in the back of picture there, now started to get closer and closer to the back of Chanakinchi. So a great job by Harvey Cowan here, of course, subbing in for Simon Perroni, and is now in the Alpine, bringing it closer to the top end, and that will certainly please the likes of Ike Urbana and Will Lewis, because it brings them into the fight as well. They're getting dragged into this scrap. So I tell you what, do not throw away your tickets yet, folks. Hold on to your hats. When we come out of the pit stop phase, the second stint, it's going to be electric.
I reckon so. It's going to be a case of who blinks first. Now, will this top 4 all follow each other in? They're not teammates, they're not sharing any pit boxes, so it could be that they all decide to go in when Ishmael does, or it'll be interesting to see if anybody goes for an undercut. Will Chanakinchi perhaps try and pull the trigger first? That's what I'm curious to see. Is anybody going to try and be the first to break the mold? Can be difficult. Do you want to be the guinea pig and give away what could be an advantageous strategy to the rest? But if you pull the trigger at the right time, you'll come away with huge potential gains, which at a circuit like this, getting those gains at the right time could be the difference. And Chanakinchi's done it.
You called it. You called it, Chris. You're absolutely right. Chanakinchi going for that undercut. He must have heard you, Chris. He's coming into the pit lane with the medium tyres prepared by the garage team as he now sends the car away down the pit lane now. Currently in 11th, though Matthew Walder, I'd imagine, will come streaking past very shortly. And I don't think he's the only one to jump. I think we've seen a few as well. Matthew Walder, incidentally, has also come in to the pit lane too. So Mercedes have also taken a gamble. I suppose they have to at this stage. But coming out in front of East Van Pookie, it is now all on Ismail Fassi to respond. Will he choose to jump the lap after here, Chris?
Crucially for Chanakinchi, he's got a big amount of free space ahead of him, so he's not tripping over other cars on worn tyres. That is a perfectly timed stop for Chanakinchi. If the undercut is going to work, I'm not good. I'm terrible generally at predicting pit stops, although I call that one. Ironically, I call that one.
You can't say that now, Chris. You can't say it.
Yeah, I can't hide behind that excuse anymore. But yeah, Chanakinchi came out ahead of East Van Pookie and Jordan Poland. So he's not tripping over people on worn tyres, exactly as I was saying. So he can follow his own pace. Yeah, so it's actually Fassi has chosen to continue. He's not going to bite him because he's going further on quite worn tyres, as well as that's Baena. That's also coming. Yeah, quite a few people going a bit longer. Now, we're just crossing over the halfway stage, which is when you'd normally expect the first pit stop to take place. But where is Chanakinchi going to filter out? Let's have a look. Now, the pit lane exit is after turn 1. He's going to slot right behind Duncan Hoffman, so it's not giving Chanakinchi any advantage at all.
No, it hasn't, but crucially enough, where's Fassi going to be in all this? Harvey Cowan has also stayed out as well, so this will be a huge boon for him. We'll soon find out, because it was 1.5 seconds when they came into the pit lane that Harvey Cowan was in behind the runners in front of him, though Chanakinchi's almost already got all his tyres warmed up. Bear in mind, Hoffland, oh, they've touched! Oh, dearie me! Duncan Hoffland going wide off the track. A little love tap from Chanakinchi into the rear wing, and it has sent Duncan Hoffland off the circuit. Luckily enough, no damage sustained to the Aston Martin, but nevertheless, he has lost a lot of ground, and he's lost 9th place as a coincidence.
My goodness me, Duncan Hoffman was switched on there. He just managed to catch that external service road to keep his car out of the wall.
And
Fassi is in. So where will the Haas filter out? This is the crucial question. Will he beat Mirko Suriano and Chanakinchi? Here comes the Ferrari and the McLaren. Eyes to the right. Chanakinchi with the fastest lap. Not that's going to help him a huge deal. Side by side. Oh, this is going to be close. Suriano is going to be up ahead. And in between the Ferrari and the McLaren comes Fassi. Marco Suriano is the biggest gainer from the pit stop strategy so far.
A perfectly timed strategy from Mirko Suriano effectively gives him the net race lead, and Chanakinchi now is going to try and attack Ismail Fassi. Now remember, on the previous lap we saw him and Duncan Hoffland just coming together slightly through this very set of corners as he now deep dive through this next right-hander, now heading out of turn 9 in towards turn 10. There is Fassi, and already out by 1.1 seconds to Mirko Suriano. Those Ferrari tyres are now fully up to speed, and Fassi does not have DRS. Unbelievable scenes.
Wow, my goodness me. Now the scrapping begins. Who's got that extra bit of pace that we haven't seen so far? In comes Cohen, Lewis and Dempsey all into the pits then. Jack West has chosen to continue along with Richie and Kuija. So again, a different range of strategies going on. Mirko Suriano has got the idea and he's getting on with it. And he's right on the verge, or he was on the verge, of breaking DRS to Ismail Fassi. That was what he was aiming to do. Only 27% left in the Ferrari's battery now, so no one has got the ERS advantage, or they don't have a significant ERS advantage that they had before. Oh my goodness me, this is fantastic stuff. Soriano, Fassi, Akinci, and Hofland is on the back of the McLaren and probably seeing red in the car of green.
Well, just think he will be seething. Obviously, what happened earlier on, but you've got to praise him for his recovery, Chris, because he was so far back. He was outside of DRS. He is now just over 3.5 tenths of a second. I can imagine what's going through his mind right now. He remembers what happened at Bahrain. He does not want another race to end in torture. He is here now fighting for the lead of this race, currently in a net P4 position. Mirko Suriano effectively net leader with Ismail Fassi in behind. Chad Akinci in all sorts of trouble here because that Aston Martin is so quick, so pacey. He's coming up to the rear wing of Chad Akinci as they head down the straight. Akinci giving away the position. He knows that what he did was wrong and he's giving it back to Duncan Hofland. Now that is what I call class.
Yeah, he realised that the mistake was his and he offered no real resistance. Didn't get out of the way in a hurry, but he didn't use DRS, you notice. So that was a bit of an indication of, I'm letting you through, I'm not going to fight you. Now, though, it's back to business as usual. So, yeah, that top four, I can imagine, are going to recondense again, and we're going to have a real scrap for who's going to come away with podium honours. As Jordan Poland comes out right behind Istvan Pukki as well. They're on hard tyres, bearing in mind how many times they've been through the pits already. So, mediums weren't ever going to make it to the end. Oh, as Poland nearly loses it on those very cold, hard tyres. Oh, goodness me. His race going from bad to disastrous, but now the pressure is on Suriano. Can he keep Fassi, Hofland, and Akinci at bay? Only time will tell.
Yeah, well, I can tell you the Jack West strategy of staying out a lot longer, of course, around about 7.5 seconds is the gap. That will not be enough to make the overcut work necessarily in terms of his on-track position, but he will have the better tyres coming in towards the latter stages of this race. So the big question is, what's his strategy here? Will he go as long as possible and then pit onto the softs? Maybe he's going to roll the dice. Maybe he's going to factor in a safety car. Who knows? This is Zandvoort after all, folks. Jeffrey Ritchie hot on his tail in behind. Remember, Jack West overtook him earlier on in the race. I've got a feeling that must be on Jack West's mind. Maybe he will pitch onto the softs later on. Of course, we've still got 13 laps to go in this race. I'd probably say you want to be on the softs within 10 to 8 laps, I would have thought.
I'd have thought so, yeah. I mean, this circuit, with its demanding, twisty nature, it's an absolute tyre muncher. So you cannot risk going onto those soft tyres too early. So I think it's a gamble for Jack, if that is the strategy he's going for, and certainly indication, along with Jeffrey Ritchie, obviously, that's what they're going for. There's no other reason to stay out there that long on hard tyres. They're going to be losing a lot of time. I can't see that they won't gain it back by going onto the soft. Jeffrey is in, but Jack is still going on. It's got to be hard. It's got to be soft tyres that Jack is aiming for, unless he thinks it's going to rain. And there's no indication of that either.
No, it's not at all. Incidentally, Jeffrey Ritchie, medium tyres being fitted to the Williams, so no benefit at all going to that car at all. He would have been better off coming in a lot earlier than what he did. So Jack West stays out, leads this Grand Prix. Mirko Suriano in second, with Ismail Fassi still in behind in third place. The strategy really paying off for Mirko Suriano in terms of on-track position right now. He should win this Grand Prix after Jack West pits, as we're now seeing the cars make their way through the middle sector. Duncan Hofland down into fourth as well after Chad Akinci left the door open for him. Harvey Cowan has seen his gap drop out to 2.5 seconds now. Certainly has not come down at all since we saw it earlier on. Remember, it was within 2 seconds earlier. It is now steeped upwards again. Obviously, with the new tyres fitted onto the cars, it has now brought the pace back up within the top, between P2 and P4, P5 as well. Ika Boehner still in behind that of Harvey Cowan. He, of course, will see P5 or net P5 as an opportunity to gain some serious points for Haas going forward in this championship, as will Will Lewis. Of course, he and his teammate going for alternate strategies. Now, if you remember correctly at Bahrain, it was the two Red Bulls that boxed earlier than anybody else. They thought that boxing early would give them the undercut. This time they're doing something totally different. They're staying out for as long as possible.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that's going to work either, but we will see. We'll see what they've practiced. These guys know what they are capable of with the setup that they are running. I can't look away from this pack of four from second to fifth. as Istvan Pukki gets a track limits warning as he's coming into the pits again in the Ferrari. Medium tyres being prepped. Is this a retirement? Nope, that's another tyre change then for the future esports car, and serving that 5-second penalty as well, making his day even worse. He's going to be joining his... oh, no, he's not. He's retiring the car. He's retired that a little bit late, in which case, because his car's still going to come out on circuit, but never mind. That's what the Ferrari's done. So that's... I did say that the attrition rate would be a bit higher here, didn't I?
Absolutely right. I mean, the stiff cornering that you get at Zandvoort obviously piles a lot of pressure onto the compounds, as now Ismail Fassi looks to try and get closer to Mirko Siriano. Down this next straight, DRS opened up here for the Haas, as now they make their way in towards turn one. A very, very strong measured performance by all those drivers within Ps 2 and Ps 5 right now. Jack West still out on track, has seen the delta between him and Mirko Siriano come down a second from the last time we checked. So there we go, folks. Duncan Hoffland as well, who's looking to try and bring it back. And there is a Ferrari into the wall. That's Istvan Pukki. His car in the wall at Sector 1. So it wasn't necessarily a retirement in the pit lane as such. Actually came out onto the track and actually retired just coming out of the banked corner. So extraordinary scenes indeed. That could have led to a VSC or maybe even a safety car, as we now see the cars make their way through turn 10. Siriano now leading this contingent through. Fassi getting very close to his rear wing. It is not all over yet, folks. 10 laps to go. Who's going to win it? Chat, let me know.
Yeah, I was watching Istvan Pukki at the point that he retired his car. His car had left the pit box and it hadn't got to the end of the pit lane at the point that the retirement happened. I was worried as well that would trigger a VSC at least, but thankfully that has not been the case. As in comes Jack West, and that's a speeding in the pit lane penalty. And his medium tyres for the Red Bull. So I wonder whether he was trying to push for the softs, but the tyres just wouldn't hold. So he's opted to go for mediums. Would the softs last 10 laps? Not with anything significant or worthwhile, something to give him to fight for at the end. So I think he had no choice but to go onto the mediums. That long pit stop strategy has backfired for Jack West, and a 5-second penalty to boot to make his day even worse. So up front then, top four, still very, very close, all keeping each other company. I've been keeping an eye on Will Lewis as well. Bearing in mind that he's up 10 positions from where he started. It's been a really strong race for Will. Were it not for that spin, who knows where he would have been.
Yeah, you just never know, do you? P7 at this moment in time, only 2 places away from a P5 as well. That is very much in touching distance. The tyres have certainly degraded here for the top 4 as well. They're looking at the 30%, the 35%. Chanakinchi with far better tyres than what Duncan Hoffland has, certainly in terms of the percentages, and the McLaren getting very close in behind that of the Aston Martin, as once again Mirko Siriano drifts to the centre of the track to try and throw off that of Ismail Fassi. Of course, remember, it was Fassi who did the same to Siriano earlier on, as well, as the cars now come out of turn 1. Heading in towards turn 2 and 3. Further back, Harvey Cowan as well, towing more cars along. As Ike Boehner is not far in behind him either, with Will Lewis also trying to look to attack the top end as well. And just looking there, Will Lewis took that corner perhaps slightly better than what Ike Boehner did earlier on. Sort of does lead me to believe as well that Duncan Hoffland's turning up the heat, because on the previous lap, very late on the brakes through the bank section at turn 3 as well. And of course, ruined the day after that incident with Chanakinchi earlier into the race. Heading through this next left now, he's looking very rapid indeed, trying to turn up the heat on Ismail Fassi.
That is very true, and echoing what you're saying there, George, just Mirko just making his car as wide as he can down that start-finish straight as a more statement of intent than anything else. Calm before the storm then, as we come round, Mirko comes round to complete lap 28 of this 36-lap race, and again puts himself in the middle, but no one followed him that time. The 3 cars behind him kind of occupying themselves almost. Oh, it's very much, buzzers circling the carcass. Who's going to go in first for the kill? Does Mirko have what it takes to defend him? Jack West fastest lap. Well, he ought to. He's got the freshest tyres of everybody. So we'll see what's that going to do. Well, it could get him in the top 10 if he gets close enough to Jeffrey Ritchie and Daniel Cuija. So we're going to have another group of cars together battling for what would be 9th position. But at the moment, all eyes are on the top 4.
Yep, Daniel Kuja still down in 9th with 5 seconds of penalties to his name. That will, of course, hand Jeffrey Ritchie the all-important positions as well. He will move up to P9 should it stay like this, as we're now seeing the cars that make their way down the straight out of turn 10, down through towards turn 11 and 12. And still, Mirko Suriano leading with more of a healthier advantage than those in behind him. Oh, we've lost one.
Sorry, George. No, that's Will Lewis. Made a huge move on Ika Baena, and they're all bouncing off of one another, and through into 6th as a result of the move was Drake Dempsey. So Will Lewis trying to get the inside line. Sorry to cut you off so unceremoniously there, George. But Will Lewis trying to get the inside line on the Haas. They came together and Drake just said, yeah, fine, you do that. I'm off. I've got 6th.
Well, there you go. Drake Dempsey now 6th place out in the classification. There's still 2 seconds behind Harvey Cowan, though, which is music to Harvey Cowan's ears because they were so close to the back of the Alpine. Will Lewis might rue the day that he made that move very late, and obviously looking to try and make a little bit of a change to the standings in the order, trying to get past Ika Baena. Of course, these two currently leading the championship coming into this weekend, or this race weekend here at PSGL. And unable, unfortunately, to make the move stick. And it came at a cost not only to himself, but to also his title contender, Ika Baena, as well, allowing Drake Dempsey up into 6th spot. And now Baena, I'm sure, who is probably mouthing a few, I suppose, unrepeatable words to himself as they make their way through the middle to the latter sector on this lap 30 of 36. He's going to be looking to try and get a recovery on right now. Drake Dempsey still in 6th, 1.8 in behind that of Harvey Cowan. It's also starting to turn up at the front end as well, with Mirko Suriano once again moving to the inside of the track as well, centre of the circuit, trying to sort of avoid any approach from Ismail Fassi. Of course, that long straight does provide a very inviting opportunity for an overtake, certainly, especially if you choose to go deep in towards turn 1. Duncan Hoffland will no doubt be looking to pounce on such a move from the likes of Ismail Fassi as they now work their way through sector 1. Well, what a dramatic moment, Chris Buxton.
My goodness me. Yeah. And speaking of the Baena and Will Lewis, suddenly that gap is around 1.3 seconds. I don't know if Will made a mistake at some point, but he's no longer in DRS range to the second Haas, who is trying to reclaim that 6th position from Drake Dempsey now. So I'm assuming that Will seems to be on pace. So I think he made a mistake somewhere that's dropped him just outside of DRS range. Also looking at Jack West, he's knocking on the door of DRS range to the Williams of Jeffrey Ritchie. So those fresher tyres at least helping Jack mitigate what's been a bit of a rough session for him. He's also got that 5-second penalty on the board, which so does Daniel Krieger. So that's Jack's immediate.
Here we go. We got to move for the lead of the race now. Ismail Fassi goes side by side with Mirko Suriano in towards turn 1. Very, very strong defending from Mirko Suriano, able to keep the Ferrari onto the inside. Fassi did go for it. He had the opportunity heading through turn 1. The first blow certainly towards the latter stages of this race with 4 laps to go, and it is Mirko Suriano leading. Fassi squirming all over his rear wing right now, and they're starting to pull away now from Duncan Hoffland. That gap now out to 0.7 of a second.
Oh, the Spaniard's going for it. He wants that top spot. He wants that top spot back, I should say. Ismail Fassi is not going to just let the lap counter continue to tick down any further without a challenge being made. But he hasn't been able to pull away too far from Duncan Hoffman. But the Aston Martin is keeping his eyes on the mirrors as well. Channy Kinchi, of course, is very large in the mirrors of the Aston Martin. But you know that's not going to be the last challenge from Ishmael. He's made a statement of intent there. He wants that top spot back. Here we go again, through the final turn, through Ari Lyndike. And DRS and ERS being utilised by the Haas. He's gaining. He's going to be forced to the outside line again. Oh, he switched back to the inside, but didn't commit to the move. He saw that door was going to shut, and for the time being, it remains a status quo in that top 4.
Well, the heat has been turned up here with 3 laps to go. Mirko Suriano leads the way. Jack West now getting through on Jeffrey Ritchie as well. Though Jeffrey Ritchie hanging on, managing to hold on to that 10th place. Jack West with 5 seconds of time penalties. It wouldn't matter if he did get higher up. Indeed, he would have to forfeit that position to Jeffrey Ritchie, who now holds on to that 10th spot. Mirko Suriano, who's currently in first, has got it all to do with Fassi in behind, but an expertly well-rounded defensive effort from him, holding back the Haas from making that crucial move through turn 1. Of course, Fassi has certainly got the pace. He was our driver of the day last week after a tremendous effort, and once again coming back to score pole position here at the Netherlands, is now looking to try and take the plaudits off the Ferrari. Of course, it's Ferrari-powered engine versus Ferrari-powered engine. Ismail Fassi through the back corner again. One has to wonder whether he will go for the move again this time. Very difficult to overtake here at Zandvoort. Does have a look to the outside, can't quite pull it off. He is still pushing and prodding at every moment he has against Mirko Siriano.
And now Hofland has got himself a bit of breathing space between himself and Akinci. Whoa, that was a bit of a late break there, coming through turn 4 for Duncan Hofland. So he's now starting to press a bit in the Aston Martin. He's got the ERS advantage over those two ahead of him. Whether he realises that is another matter. But Jan Akinci is a few tenths back. 6 tenths is the distance between the McLaren and the Aston Martin. That could be enough breathing space for Duncan to mount a serious challenge for that for higher steps on the podium in these final few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. As they now make their way out of turn 10, they'll now head down through towards turn 11 and 12. Siriano leading the way within 4 tenths of a second. Ismail Fassi, who is now trying to gain all the time. A Haas who has been so quick across qualifying and also has been a very patient driver here in this race as well. Has tried opening the door on a few occasions already as we come into the latter stages of this race, but now the cooker pressure, the heat has been turned up to max as they now head down through towards turn 1 yet again. Siriano once again into the centre of the track. Here comes Fassi side by side with the Ferrari as they head through turn 1. Doesn't want to leave the door too wide open because Duncan Hofland waiting right in behind, but nose to tail, nothing separates them. Siriano on the penultimate lap of the race. One last chance to dance is just around the corner. Siriano, if it stays like this, will win the Dutch Grand Prix.
Oh, it's so close. One tiny mistake, he's going to completely change the order of this group as Matt Older has brought his car in. He's going for a soft tyre, fastest lap run. There's nothing more he can do. Both Mercs at the back of the field, but less than 3 tenths at certain points separate the top 3. Oh my goodness me, that is getting lively. I'm also keeping an eye on the next group. Dempsey, Baena and Will Lewis. They're kind of condensed up again. Then the next group of 3, Kuija, Ritchie and West. There could be action from anywhere in this field.
It certainly can be. They're heading through the next double rights. They'll take this straight for the last time in terms of racing action. May he choose to open the door now, Ismail Fassi. It's now or never. Duncan Hofland may also fancy a go as well. They've got to commit here on this final lap. Lap 36 of 36. In comes Hofland now. Round turn 1. Side by side with Ismail Fassi. They head through turns 2 and turns 3 as well. Round the bank curves. Fassi shuts the door. He holds on to second. Hofland now remains in third. The Aston Martin went for it. Opened the door. Just could not take his chance, Chris Buxton.
And Dempsey's in trouble. He's had a spin at turn 1. He's now falling through the field. He's under a lot of pressure. Jack West can't get past Jeffrey Ritchie. They're banging wheels. Oh my goodness me, Dempsey's hit the wall. It is chaos at the tail end of the top 10.
It is indeed. Coming through this next right now, Jeffrey Ritchie and Jack West side by side between the pair, heading the long way around turn 9 through turn 10. Jack West, a brilliant move. Despite the penalties, he's up into 9th on track. A brilliant run indeed. But Mirko Siriano, he challenged, he battered a strategy that was pulled off to perfection with Fassi in behind as well, who took Haas's 3rd pole of the season. But it won't stop Mirko Siriano. The Ferrari crosses the line and takes victory in the PSGL F2 PC Dutch Grand Prix here at Zandvoort. A wonderful drive to say the least. Duncan Hofland coming home in 3rd place.
Wow, what a finish. That was absolutely incredible. The next group of 4 were right with one another but sorted by penalties in the end. Harvey Cohen standing in, jumping into the car and coming home in 5th place, 7 places up from where he began. But hats off to Will Lewis. Started 17th and coming home in 7th from what was, quite a challenging race for all concerned. Oh, difficult call for driver of the day. He's going between, for me, don't get me wrong, Siriano did a superb job. fending off the advances of Ismail Farsi, Duncan Hoffman, and Channing Kinchi. I'm tempted to give it to Will Lewis for gaining 10 positions at a track like Zandvoort.
Well, I have to say, up to the point where he did lose it, I was in that same. I was having that same perspective myself. But I think I've got to give it to only one man, Mirko Suriano. I think for me is my driver of the day. That performance was stellar. Of course, pulling off the strategy the way he did, I think he is well deserved of my driver of the day. But what a wonderful showing by all the drivers. Mirko Suriano, incidentally, that is his third top 10 finish this season. Of course, he would go on to take points in the first race at Spain, finishing P9 after qualifying P9, not to mention coming back at Bahrain with a 6th place finish to take 5 points. He has now taken 16 points today at Zandvoort and a first win this season, which I'm sure will not be his last. He'll have plenty more to come, Mirko Suriano. A lot to get excited about this lad, to keep back Ismail Fassi, a man who we have seen and have got excited about, obviously, with the last race at Bahrain. Got to give hats off to Fassi as well, because he was strong in qualifying, and yet again another podium display.
Yeah, all worthy recipients of driver of the day. Forza Ferrari, Forza Italia for Mirko Suriano in the red car. Yeah, Ismail Farsi, exactly as you said, did a storming job and just outgunned at the right moment by Suriano. Oh, what a season we have ahead of us here in PTF2.
Yeah, Matthew Alder incidentally taking the fastest lap. Mirko Suriano, Ismail Fassi, Duncan Hoffman. That is your top 3. Channing Kinchi in behind as well in 4th. Harvey Cowan came home in 5th, coming in last minute to replace Simon Perigny as well, and certainly drove brilliantly. Started 12th on the grid. In fact, I might give him my driver of the day for stepping in like that. Ike Boehner in 6th as well. Will Lewis in 7th. Jeffrey Ritchie in 8th with Drake Dempsey in 9th. Daniel Kuja in 10th with Jack West in 11th with Jordan Poland in 12th, Matthew Alder in 13th, Ben Jabo-Conye 15th, Istvan Pukki was a retiree, as well as Max Wiesel, Valentin Thivard, Carter Lundy and Christoph Zeller. That is your remainder, folks. Well, what a broadcast. We witnessed something truly spectacular, a brilliant race to say the least. Chris, I mean, we've seen sort of a very different set of races this season already. Spain was a typical barnstormer. Bahrain, there was action from start to finish. Of course, we had a tie-up with the strategy. But I think definitely in Zandvoort, you're almost forced to utilise the strategy battle, I think. And that's exactly what we saw from Mirko Suriano here today.
Yeah, absolutely so. But you cannot take it away. That was some superb driving from particularly that group of top 4. They were near enough flawless from what we could see. So, yeah, strategy, absolutely true. But we go to a very different track next time out. We head to Montreal. We've had 3 winners from our 3 rounds so far. This is the kind of season I love the most, where no one driver is going to run away with all the silverware. Everyone is battling for every point they can possibly find.
Absolutely right, and obviously heading to Canada, obviously you've got the Wall of Champions, a trepidatious circuit. You don't want to go there with any hesitations, because you will be picked out for them. Of course, those chicanes very fast, very tight as well, Chris. You need to certainly be there with your A-game. Setup as well is so vital to make sure you're getting the very best out of the car. It's a very different test again, almost.
Yeah, very different test again. That's more to do with flow. A flow and a rhythm, as well as picking the right time to make a pass. Because if you pass at the wrong point, you will very easily be counter-attacked at someone like Canada. So again, strategy very, very key when we head to Montreal.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the rounds are ticking away, folks. I'd like to say a personal big thank you for all your support to the Premier Sim Gaming League's channel. Of course, PSGL, you can check them out on Twitter at PSGL, obviously Premier Sim GL. You can find them on there, not to mention Instagram as well. Don't forget as well to leave a like and subscribe as well to the channel to stay up to date for when we go live for more racing. Plenty more to come this season. Lots of tracks to be excited about. Like we said before, Canada up next on the calendar. And that, for me, Chris, is obviously my 2 stints done in F2 this season. I will be stepping away. Obviously, Luke Etheridge will be coming back. But I'd like to thank each and every single one of you as viewers for making me feel welcome once again to the PSGL doors. It's been great to be back and be part of it. I'm not going away. I will be sticking around, I can assure you. Just to, where they put me is obviously the big question mark, and I will wait with bated breath to see whether they take me at all. I might have to take my luggage and stand outside the door. We'll have to wait and see. But guys, big thank you for all your support. Like I said, if you want to check me out as well, at George Morgan TV, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. And Chris, why don't you share your details as well, my friend? Give them a taste of the Buxton Meister right now.
You'll find me on Twitter at KingKodiak_UK. I don't have a huge presence there, but whatever I'm up to, that's where you'll find updates about that.
There you go. So if you want to find out all about Chris Buxton, that is where you'll see him indeed. So great to have you guys along for the ride. And PSGL will see you next time for PCF2 action at Canada. Make sure you're there for that. See you then, folks. Goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.